In today's video, we're checking out the Mighty 60 Mark II from the folks over at NUX. This is the big brother of the Practice Amplifier series, loaded with a quality 12-inch speaker in the back over here. Now, the great news is, while this is a 60-watt amp, you can switch it down to 5 watts or 0.5 watts if you want to practice or record at a much lower volume. Now, you're about to hear this in the context of a jam track with the amp mic'd up with a Shure SM57, and then we're going to go over to some isolated tones. I'll show you how the software works and all that kind of stuff. A massive thanks to the folks from NUX for sending this out for the review. I really appreciate it. I'll talk about the pros and cons of this at the end, but overall, man, NUX are making some really great practice amplifiers. And if you're looking for something with a 12-inch speaker, I think you might want to check this one out. I'll link it down below if you want to have a look. Let's get into it. Let's take a look at the Mighty 60 Mark II up close. And if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I've already reviewed the 40 and the 20. So this is the big brother of the bunch, and this is definitely the loudest of all three. So if you're looking for the one with the most grunt, this will definitely be it. Now, in terms of weight, this isn't heavy whatsoever. It weighs about the same as something like a Boss Katana 50. So no problems there in terms of portability. If you want to use your desktop to customize the sounds of this amp, you can use the Mighty Editor software. It's free, there's no DLC or downloadable paid content, so that's awesome. And there's also the Mighty Amp app for your phone, both of which I'll showcase coming right up. When it comes to the amplifier selection, there's 21 different amps to choose from, which is great. It covers all of the classics, as you can see on screen. You can also choose from 43 different stomp boxes and effects in your signal chain, which is separate from the amp selection. So there's plenty to choose from. This covers gates, compressors, standard stomp boxes like overdrive, distortion, and fuzz. There's EQ, modulation, delay, and plenty of different reverbs. This amplifier also gives you a few additional effects not found in the smaller counterparts. So if you're looking for the most functional out of all of them, this would be the way to go. Built into this amplifier, we get lots of different drum rhythm tracks in case you just want to practice along, or you can also use the built-in looper. Here's a quick look at the 12-inch speaker in the back over here. There's no reverb tank or anything at the base of this. It's all done digitally when it comes to the reverbs, tones, and all that kind of stuff. And I'll show you that in just a moment. We're going to take a quick look at the top panel over here, because the great news is this actually works pretty much like a regular amplifier. We've got our gain level, We get a 3-band EQ, a reverb control, which is great. So when you dial in whatever reverb you choose to use, this will actually allow you to turn it up and down. Over here we have a presence control and a master volume output. Our on-off switch is over here. We get 2 different inputs here for your guitar. If you're playing with active pickups, you want to drop the input signal, you can go into high, and our regular input is here. This channel button over here allows you to switch between 7 color-coded channels, and then you can also select which scene you want. So for example, I could be on scene number 1 and set most of the 7 presets up clean, go over to scene number 2 and set up 7 dirty channels, and then go over to scene 3 and set up 7 metal channels. It's up to you how you choose to use it, but that's basically the premise here. It allows you to kind of group or bank them in a really logical order. We get a color-coded power attenuation switch here, so you can drop it from 60 watts down to 5 or 0.5 watts. On the back of the amp, we get our auxiliary in. It's a 3.5mm TRS connector, and there's also a headphone output if you want to practice silently. We get a dedicated effects loop built in, which is always a good thing. A dedicated line out if you plan on going directly into an audio interface or PA system. And we can also use a foot switch, which I don't have, so I won't be showcasing that in the video, but this will help operate the looper and a few of the other parameters on the amplifier. Now included, unlike other amplifiers out there, we do get a Bluetooth dongle in the box. You just click that in and you're good to go. And if you want to use the app, which I'll showcase in just a moment, you've just got to provide your own USB cable, but I'm glad they've provided this. It just makes getting connected to the amplifier a whole lot easier. If you want to check this out, I'll leave some affiliate links down in the description below. They help support the channel at no extra cost to you. All right, this video is going to be quite long, so I'll timestamp everything down below if you want to skip ahead, back or forth. And if there's something that I didn't cover in this video, check my prior video. I did a big deep dive on both of the 20 and 40, the software and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try and cover as much as I can without this video being obscenely long. Let's get into it. All right, let's kick things off. What I'm going to do is show you some of the presets that I made for that particular jam track. I'll show you the software and how the amp interacts with all of this. Now, I've got the power attenuation on the amplifier set to the middle, which is 5 watts. I've been blowing my ears out the last few days, and also just while filming this amplifier as well, it gets quite loud on the full 60 watts. So we're gonna use this like a home amplifier right now because I'm at home, and this 5 watt option still sounds really great. So what you're about to hear now is the clean tone that I dialed in for one of the rhythm tracks, and this is using the Jazz Clean. So this is like a Roland jazz chorus amplifier. We have the noise gate enabled, there's a digital delay, and also a plate reverb. And this was just a custom one that I dialed in right before filming. I've got the amp mic'd up with a Shure SM57 and an AEA N22 ribbon microphone, and this is neck pickup clean. Here we go. Even on 5 watts, this has a big, full, clean sound. It's really nice. Let's turn off the delay. All I have to do is right click on the effect and it's off. Beautiful. Up next, you're going to hear that lead clean tone that I had dialed in. Now, this is a different guitar. I was using my Little Crow guitar before, but we've got the Budda amplifier. If I right click on here, these are all the different amps. As you can see, there's plenty to choose from. And then I've also got some analog delay and some plate reverb, and it sounds like this. I also quickly recorded a slide part. I'll just show you how I have this set up. So I'm using a Tweedy amplifier, which is basically a Fender Tweed amp. We're using the AC booster, a noise gate, and some reverb, which is set to damp. And there's 5 options to choose from here. Now the AC booster is pretty much like a Tubescreamer with a bass and treble control. So let's give this a shot on bridge. And there you go. So that's very reminiscent of an old school Tweed amp. All right, let's take a listen to that lead tone you heard in the intro track with some dirt finally. So we've got the noise gate on, which works beautifully. I'll show you that in just a moment. We're using a distortion pedal into the 1987 by 50 amplifier. We're using a little bit of analog delay and a little bit of plate reverb. Now, this is with my volume all the way up. It's dead silent. That's awesome. That's the lead sound that I used. It sits great in the mix, and if you want to adjust the EQ, it's just as simple as doing this. We can add more mids, maybe bring the treble down in here if you like to play on that bridge pickup. The noise gate works beautifully. It didn't cut off the note at all, which is great. Let's take a quick look at how the amp interacts with the software. Now, I've got my iPhone and the app connected via the Mighty editor on my Mac. So I've got the USB connected to the computer, and I'm also just connected via Bluetooth thanks to the dongle that you connect to the back of the amp. Now, the cool thing with this is if I adjust something on the amplifier, you're going to see it adjust on both apps instantly, which is fantastic. And if I change the bass control on the app for the software, it's going to adjust it also on the iPhone app. Now, you don't need to connect both at the same time. I'm just doing this to show you that not only it can be done, but it also allows you to use one or the other, which is fine. So you can see up the top here, we've got 7 different presets and 3 pro scenes. Now, the preset is this one. So as I cycle through each, you can see that it's currently green. As I click on 2, it's going to go to a yellow color. Then it's going to red, blue, lighter blue, pink, and a light shade of pink there as well. Now, this is 7 different presets, so I can use the button on top of the amp and cycle through them like this as well. So it allows me to store up to 7 presets per scene, which is great. Then I can go over to the next scene and set up 7 more, and the next scene and set up 7 more. So it's really powerful, allows you to store basically whatever kinds of tones you like. All right, let's get into some tones and I'll show you how all of the software works. We'll dial in some different effects, save a few presets, all that kind of stuff. So as you can see, we've got the Jazz Clean set up with a noise gate and just a little bit of spring reverb. This is neck pickup. Here we go. So that's a beautiful sound. The Jazz Chorus is a solid state amplifier just with a really great clean. Let's try the Deluxe Reverb, another one of my favorites on here. It feels like a Deluxe Reverb to play, which is really nice. We're going to go over to a twin reverb, and this has got the gain up a little bit as well. Let's try this. We'll actually just adjust the EQ slightly here. Let's try this. Now, the cool thing about this amplifier and software is you can dial in gain on an amp which doesn't always have gain, which is great. So if you like a pushed amp over the edge of breakup, you've got a gain control here on a Fender Twin. Now, some Fender Twins have a gain control, but not many, so it's great that they've included it. I really like it. Over to Class A15, which is based on a Vox. So we'll go over to bridge and middle pickups together for that sort of spanky tone. got that Vox voicing, which is beautiful. Now, if you want to add a dirt pedal, the Tubescreamer is a great match for a Vox. Let's have a listen to this. I spent many years playing a Vox AC15 and a Tubescreamer, and that's the sound. Beautiful. Over to the PLEXI 100. So everything else is still set the same. Let's go ahead and change the spring reverb now to plate. Plate is always good. Let's give this a shot. PLEXI 100 gain all the way up, bridge pickup. So not too over the top in terms of gain. Now there's also a bias control. If you're not sure what that is, it allows you to get more compression and sort of squish to the feel of the amp with it to the left and a more open sound with it to the right. So let's have a listen to the difference. Back to bridge. Now it's up to you what sound you like the best, but the bias towards the right-hand side is definitely my favorite. Over to some humbuckers. We're going to try some of these dirty amplifiers, starting with the Brit 800, which is based on a JCM 800, and I've got the reverb now set to Hall with a really long decay. Actually, I'll bring this down just a bit because it's going to get kind of crazy. But this is bridge pickup. There you go. Over to SLO 100, which is based on a soldano, and I've got a plate reverb dialed in. This is a high gain kind of tone. Here we go. Going on there in terms of gain, so let's turn on some delay just to add a little bit of niceness to the solo tone. So there you go. If you like your big, distorted lead tone, this is a really great choice. Over to Die VH4. So I think this is a diesel amplifier if I had to guess. Let's give this a shot. I've turned the delay off. Super high gain. Up next is a sort of classic rock crunch high gain tone thanks to the Brit 2000 amp model. Now the reverb is set to damp. Let's give this a go. Now there's nothing to stop you from running the gain lower, right? And then using some sort of effects pedal to push the front end. So let's do that. Let's change this now to the RC booster, which is the really clean booster, and we'll turn up the volume a little bit. So this should bring us back to a similar sort of gain structure as before. All right, I have to do it. Let's turn on some modulation here. We'll go for a flanger. We'll turn the level down so it's not too prominent. bring the rate back to about 12 o'clock, and let's give this a go. One of the great things about this NUX software, it gives you two different EQs you can throw into the signal chain. If you double click on this, it brings up either a 6 or a 10 band EQ, and then you can scoop or add frequencies as need be. So let's have a quick listen to this on bridge pickup. It sounds great. I wouldn't actually use this for the sound I've got dialed in right now, but I should also point out I've just switched the amp down to 5-watt mode as it's getting late, and it's loud. Yeah, loud at full volume. So let's bring some frequencies out here. So you can see that this is the volume on the left. If you need to compensate by turning this up, meaning if you pull too many frequencies out, your volume will drop. You can kind of bring this up a little bit. Let's have a listen. Just give it a bit more sort of fat, low mid sound here. So you can experiment around with this. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but give it a shot if you want to scoop your sound even more. But I still think it sounds great with it off. It's a great balanced starting tone with the EQ currently off. This last one I wanted to show you here is called Uber, which is a high gain metal sort of tone, and then we're going to add an overdrive to it as well. But have a listen to this. This is bridge pickup, and I love the fact that the noise gate is working. My guitar volume's all the way up. We've got the reverb set to room. That's on 5-watt mode, so I can get so much sustain out of this without annoying the neighbors too much, at least anyway. Built into the software, we get a tuner. All you have to do is click on it and it brings up this display and it allows you to tune up with great success. It's nice and easy to tell if you're in tune or not. Now I've got it set to the standard display, flowing. If I detune right now, there's going to be a lot more stuff moving. Now you might like that. I don't like that as much as just having the standard display on, which is a lot easier to tell if I'm just flat or sharp. I really like that. Now there's 3 different tuning modes here. Guitar standard will also give you the string, so it says 6 and E, so that's pretty cool. And there's plenty of different ways you can tune up. So if you're not tuned to 440, you can set it up any way you like. Let's give the looper a quick shot here, and this will be the last thing that I show you with this particular amp. If you want to learn more about some of the different effects, watch my other video and I'll link that down below. But this looper is really great. If you've got the external foot switch, you can use it, but I don't, so let's give it a go. I'm going to set this to auto record. All right, I think I'm on time. That's a good start. All right, let's hit the record button again. So get the point, if you screw up, like I always do with loop stations, then you can remove the last layer or the last thing that you recorded using the undo button, and it just takes you back to where you were, which is really great. So this is a great learning tool to get better timing. You've got the drum tracks there. You can adjust the drum volume, the EQ of the drums, and then you can also turn up or down the playback level of what's been recorded, which is super versatile. So this is really good. Let's take a look at the power attenuation button on the top. We're going to start with it at 60 watts. I'll then switch it down to the yellow option, which is 5 watts, and green, which is 0.5 watts, and then we'll bring that up in post. So this is as loud as it goes. Actually, what I'm going to do right now is grab my trusty little dB meter on the floor, and we'll get a reading on how loud it is. Here we go. Peaked at 113 dB, so it's really loud. 5 watts. 103 dB, so much quieter, and 0.5 watts. So that's like 92 dB, which is not very loud whatsoever. Now what I'm going to do is leave it on the lower setting and turn it up on the recording in post so you can get a good sense of whether it records well. Here we go. It still feels good to play, even though it doesn't feel much louder than my voice. All right, let's wrap this video up. I'm going to give you my final thoughts on the 60 and how it compares up against the 40 and 20. So they scale down in terms of overall output volume. This is without question the loudest. We get a 12-inch speaker, we get 60 watts of power, but the great news is you can still step this back. So if you at all aspire or you want to jam with friends and all that kind of stuff with someone with an acoustic drum kit, this would easily be loud enough on 60 watts to keep up with them. No questions about it. I played live enough over the last 20 years or so to know that the volume coming out of this on full on the power attenuation switch is plenty loud, so you won't have a problem with that whatsoever. What I'm going to do coming up is test this out on the clean channel with some actual analog effects going straight into the front end. I have a feeling it will probably sound okay. Now, in terms of its tones, like any digital multi-effects amplifier like this, you've got to set it up for the way that works best for you. I just tried to showcase a good mix of tones so you can get a good sense of what it's capable of, and then you can dial them in accordingly for your guitar, your ear, and all that kind of stuff. The cleans out of this sound really nice. The jazz chorus, the twin, the deluxe reverb, the tweed amps, all those ones sound really nice. When we get over to some of the sort of crunch or high gain tones, they also sound really good. A couple of them did sound a little bit on the fizzy side, but I'm sure if you experiment around with it, you're not going to have too much of a problem. I love the fact we get a gain control on top of this amplifier, which makes it more versatile in the context of a live mix, for example. So say you've got your sound and it's set up very simply for a blues tone, but you wish you had a little bit more gain, you can go over and just turn it up. You don't have to hook it up to the app for that. I really like it. And I also love the fact we get a dedicated reverb control on there, which allows you to get the right sound in the room, again, without having to use the app connectivity. This amp's strength is its simplicity, and while you do need an app to get the extended functionality, you can't multi-stack delays, reverbs, or 3 distortion pedals or anything like that. It's one of each, so it keeps it pretty simple like that. And once you get a sound that you like, you can assign it to one of the channel custom presets that I showed you in the software, and then you're good to go. So you can set up a whole row of 7 effects, clean, another row with dirty overdrive tones, and then the third one like high gain tones or whatever it is you want to do. So it's very flexible in that regard. I think the 12-inch speaker in this really does shine. I'm just glad they've used quality speakers in this as well. And again, it's definitely loud enough to keep up with a drummer, at least in the test so far at home. It feels really loud. If you just plan on playing at home and you don't plan on taking this type of amplifier out to jam with friends or whatever, get the 40. The 40 is still plenty loud, but it makes more sense being that the speaker is a little bit smaller. You're not getting the same sort of spread of sound in the room, but still, it feels really great to play and it doesn't feel like a huge compromise over this one. A massive thanks to Michael from NUX for sending this out. If you want to check it out, I'll link it down below. Leave a thumbs up if you can. I really appreciate it. It helps support the channel. And I will catch you on the next one. See ya.